This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group or our YouTube members only area where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to Best in Faction.
The Next Generation.
A podcast about competitive Warhammer 40k.
My name's Tyler.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Lucas.
And today we are bringing you a little bit light, a little bit tight. Gonna keep it moving after the absolute extravaganza of our past episode covering GTs. No tournament coverage this week. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the new crazy changes that have been happening to the game. We've all had some time now to fully digest this balanced data slate, to play into new bugs, to play into new Marines. Whole lot is changing, and we're going to cover all of that. And then, once we've talked about some of that, we're going to break out a brand new segment that we definitely already thought about a name for, that is going to break down a specific matchup to matchup, mission to mission strategy. I think you're going to really enjoy it. So, with that all being said, Lucas, how you doing, man? How's your last week at 40k been?
It's been pretty good. This last week was, Tyler alluded to this last week. I got a new job recently, and the last week was kind of like crunch time because now I work in finance. So there's a quarterly cycle to everything. So every 3 months for like 1 week or two, I get super duper busy. So I've had like no 40k time this week, unfortunately. That doesn't preclude me from thinking about 40k 24/7 though, and chatting with Nick about it 24/7. So we've had some fun. He's been on a T-Suns extravaganza, and I played T-Suns for a little while back in like December, November. So being able to help him out with that and give some pointers and talk about strategy with the army with him has been pretty fun. So that's been my 40k fix for the week. Yeah, it's been great. I'm feeling good. I'm excited. How about you, Nick? What are you up to in the land of 40k in the last week?
The land of 40k. Well, I mean, you kind of talked a bit about it. I've been thinking about what to bring to the GW Seattle event coming up here shortly. And I think we played our first game on GW terrain. With Armor of Contempt changes, I was really excited to try Thousand Suns out. They were an army that always interested me. And now they're harder to kill, so why not give them a shot? And I've been having a blast with them. They're tough to play. They, if you get like your sequencing incorrect in the psychic phase, your whole plan can just fall to pieces around you. But I've been enjoying it so far. So it's mostly been writing a bunch of lists, T-Suns with Necrons, with Harlequins, trying to figure out which one I want to play at this event coming up here soon. So, yeah, lots of fun experimenting going on.
Good stuff, man. This past week, I have been just absolutely hammering out as much NIDS as I possibly can, trying to also get ready for that GW event. Oh, we have lost a Lucas. Hopefully he'll be back in a moment. The army just plays so differently to anything that I've played a lot in the past, so I'm trying to just get reps, and then there's a mountain of hobby building up as I find more and more tech choices that I'm excited about. None of which are painted, but I have a pretty good repository of NIDS to work from. So we're getting there on that.
Yeah. What have you been what have you been testing against a lot?
Yeah, so I'm most worried about the big boys around. I have not played into Custodes post nerf because they don't seem like a real thing, but maybe we'll get a rep or two into them before GW. Been playing a bunch into Eldar and Harlequins and Tau. Doing frankly very well into all of them. NIDS are very stupid, as we've discussed on this show a number of times, which is honestly kind of annoying. We've talked on the show a lot about how one of the benefits of faction loyalty is that when your army is terrible, you get great practice. Like every single game is a great rep. you get to, you have to scrap for every point, even if it should be favorable, even if you're a better, like everything is hard. And that makes you get much better at the game much quicker. Whereas right now that I'm playing NIDS as a completely broken, please fix it GW right now kind of faction, reps aren't necessarily quite as, they're not teaching me as much per rep as they could. I walk out not getting punished for big mistakes that I'm making, and that's only the ones that I notice that I'm making, and I can kind of learn from that. But the stuff that I don't notice that just doesn't get punished, who knows? So we'll see how it's able to translate. But I'm definitely feeling like I'm playing with training wheels on, and we'll see how that ends up affecting things in the back.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Playing with an army that is like ludicrously strong, and it's going to get nerfed, can be a bit of a bummer because then you try to do the same things a few months later, and you get punished tremendously for them. So
yeah, we'll see. I'm excited for NIDS to get nerfed because, man, does that army have a deep bag of tricks that I would love to have to exploit more often. Right now, there's just not so much of that.
agreed.
Anyway, so how have you found the Armor of Contempt changes to be affecting Thousand Suns, and maybe you've played into any of the Marines, Nick? How's that been going for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've played them twice so far, and both games were in 2 Marines, so it was Armor of Contempt versus Armor of Contempt. Lucas and I played a game, White Scars versus T-Suns, and I played a game against Max, T-Suns versus Grey Knights. It's pretty funny because, like, a lot of, like, our AP2 stuff, like, we're all running Terminators, because obviously they benefit a lot from Armor of Contempt. So basically, it's just making Terminators take a lot of 3-up saves, which feels like you're playing into Custodies again, except for the fact of they have, like, triple the bodies. So it's pretty fun. Like, the games have lasted for a while. Like, our game between Lucas and I really came down to the last turn, and I lost, like, by 5, 6 points, and it was mostly, like, secondary choices, like unfamiliarity with the army. Um, so I think it's a great change. It's really fun to be able to just have your toys last a little bit longer, but not feel invincible. Like, there was times in the game with Max where his guys were out in the open because he couldn't, like, get to cover. He chose to come towards me more aggressively instead of, like,
Mhm.
hang back a few inches and cover. And I'm like, hey, dude, here's AP3 out in the open on your strike marines, and just mowed them down. Like, even AP2 out in the open. So uh, it's nice that they don't feel like invincible anymore, but it's cool that it, like, if played correctly, or played, like, you can use cover to your advantage, um, you could really bump up the resiliency of your army. So
Very nice. Oh, what about you, Lucas? How's Armor of Contempt felt from your side of the equation?
It's felt pretty good. I feel like Armor of Contempt is it doesn't make much sense because it affects melee and ranged combat equally, but the way you can stack Armor of Contempt with cover makes it feel more impactful when you're getting shot by shooting weapons than with melee weapons. And that's, I feel like, the biggest downfall of Armor Contempt for Thousand Suns in particular, just to touch on that really quickly,
yeah,
is that they were already incredibly resilient from getting shot, and this just bumped that again through the roof. So you basically can't kill Thousand Suns unless you have like perfect shooting profiles into them. Um, you still get run over in melee. Like, the AP reduction helps and helps you stay alive, but you're still getting whole chunks torn out of your army when you get hit in melee. Um, so I feel like T-Suns still have the same problem of they have one or two problematic, like, melee slash rush army matchups that prevent them from being really, really good. Because you can't just get Zerg down. You have a damage cap, and if you hit the damage cap and your opponent gets to plow into you next turn, you're just done. Um, but in general, I feel like the change helps Marines stay alive, especially against shooting. That's where it feels really good, is you're not just randomly getting killed by shuriken cannons and stuff, like shuriken cannon stonks down. Um, but it's a nice little boost in melee. It helps out a lot. It's not a game changer though, I've found so far.
Yeah,
I I get them coming at that from the perspective of Goffs, which is just the whole army is here. Have 40 AP3 wounds at 3 damage. Go ahead and make your saves. So +1 save doesn't really matter there, but
yeah, for
yeah.
sure. This makes a lot of sense on GW terrain. Have y'all tried this out on FLG terrain though, with all that heavy cover they've got running around?
We're just assuming heavy cover isn't really a rule.
Y'all are
Um,
clearly not Fight Club aficionados. Heavy cover is life.
are
On
people actually playing this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you should know that like at FLG events, there are 2 pieces of heavy cover in the game.
Is this new?
Do you know what they are? No, this is just like this has been a thing, and no one
Oh.
pays attention to heavy cover. But there are 2 pieces in FLG train sets that have heavy cover, which are when you're playing on the cathedral table, the giant cathedrals are heavy cover, just the giant ones. And when you're playing on the orc table, the center box is heavy cover.
Well, I think BAO is going to be interesting.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, that's especially if you get to be defender. Well, I mean, obviously the box on orc table is gonna be in the center, but if you're playing on the cathedral and you get to be defender and you can just slap down that cathedral and say, I get to park my Terminators dead center in light cover, heavy cover, like,
Yeah, Lucas, what do you think about 20 scarabs with heavy cover?
I just assumed that wasn't a real rule,
Yeah.
but apparently it is.
Interesting.
So cool.
yeah, it turns out. Cool. All right. And then so that's sort of the Marine situation. Seems a lot better. Do you guys think that Marines can hang now? Like where obviously everything's in flux, but where are y'all feeling like Marines are fitting into the old tier list and whatnot?
I feel like some chapters and factions, sub factions are much better than others. I feel like probably in the very powerful could potentially compete for, big tournament wins. There's like White Scars, Salamanders. Who else do we feel like is up there? Are Grey Knights up there?
Grey
I
Knights
feel like
seem definitely up there to me.
Grey
Paladins
Knights seem up
seem
there.
like they
Grey Knights were
slap.
already pretty good, and now they got a little bit better, so yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you're going full infantry though, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about Blood Angels?
Lucas is pretty hyped on Blood
I
Angels.
feel like they're just worse White Scars, but I could
They
definitely absolutely be wrong about that.
they hit harder, but they get there slower. But also they have like
But 2-up
Sanguinary Guard.
saves. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like Sangers are a 12-inch move 2-up save, which is just not a thing in the game.
Yeah.
Like that's not real.
They have Vanguard vets with
Um,
Terminator saves. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So I'm curious to see how that shakes out. If you are
Yeah.
playing one of those chapters or any Marine chapter, like definitely take a swing at it. So that's the big change to Marines. I assume y'all haven't played into Sisters. Sisters aren't real. Like maybe they're real.
We're
But...
playing them tomorrow, so we'll
Okay,
see.
cool. We'll look forward to hearing about that. I know there's a lot of wacky lists getting thrown around, but I haven't gotten to play into it yet, so not really eligible to comment. Other stuff. Have y'all have any reps into Tau Harley Custodes
Since the changes?
since the changes?
No, I have not.
Okay.
I've been talking with a friend who's been playing Harlequins a few times into
Gotcha.
like Marines and stuff.
Mhm.
He reports back. They're still good. Killed 1,200 points of salamanders over 2 rounds. So
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've played into all 3 of them, and I feel eligible to make a couple quick comments on that. Sorry, I haven't played into Custodes. Custodes aren't real. I think we can all agree on that. If someone finds a Custodes build that works, I'll be very impressed.
I got yeah.
You got something? You got something for Custodes?
I think Shadow Keepers is okay. I think outside of Shadow Keepers, you're kind of trolling.
What does the new Shadow Keepers build look like?
I mean,
I
just
can't
kind of.
imagine it's bikes.
I don't have like a list in mind. I'm just saying they have like
Mhm.
some tools that are pretty good into the meta. Like everyone seems super hot on playing like melee Marines. All the AT armies are like melee armies beforehand. Like if you have a whole sub faction that subtracts 1 attack from all the guys, and also you have -1 strength, which for 1 CP situationally is -1 to wound, right?
Mm-hmm.
And also, what is it? You got the Lock Warden guy, so he got Fight Last and Ignore Invulns against characters. Fight Last is pretty big in a melee army. Not every melee army has Fights Last. So I think
For
they
sure.
have some tools to play melee. Obviously, you turn more into a trading army. You're not like a brick wall anymore.
Mhm.
But like if you use Transhuman or use Emperor's Auspice at the correct times in the game, you could really like flip a pivotal combat and maybe push that. Like you still got 2 interrupts. I don't know. I think if you want to succeed with Custodies, Shadow Keepers have the best tools. I don't know if they get there. I think there's still something there. I'm still kind of scared of seeing a Shadow Keepers army across the table, but maybe when I play against them, I'll just roll over them. So we'll see.
Cool beans. Looking forward to it. Zach the Bird comments that he's got 30 Sangers ready to go and is very excited to do that. So please report back to us,
Hell
Zach,
yeah.
on how that goes for you. I played
Yeah.
the Blood Angels once. It did not go well for the Blood Angels, but I was playing Tyranids, so like I can't really count that as good data.
I feel like if you're playing something like Blood Angels, you want to go full pedal to the metal. Every unit hits like a freight train. You don't want any of this cute, like, take a bunch of speeders and devastators. It's like, no. Just take like 45 dudes with jump packs and big weapons and try to smash your opponent in the mouth.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. So what
Oh, yeah.
about Tau.
What about your games? Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So Tau, I think the change to Monka is nice. It doesn't really affect me because I'm playing bugs and armor saves aren't real. The indirect changes though, wow. Oh man, gargoyle stonks to the moon. I haven't played any Hot Forces or GSC yet, but I really want to because oh wow, did it feel good when he was like, all right, I have 6 tanks, so I have 12 SMS coming at you, and I was like, all right, cool. I'm -1 to hit. You're -1 ballistic skill. You can't get marker lights on me because I'm behind a wall. Those, what did I say? 12 SMS times 4, 48 shots. Cool. You get 8 hits. You wound on 3s. You get 5 wounds, and I've got a 5-up save. Or sorry, I got a 5-up save either way. So you kill like 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 dudes out of all the like it felt fantastic. Airbursts feel real bad right now. Probably still worth taking in some circumstances, but I think that Tower in a great place. The army was still very competitive. It did hard stuff. I played into a friend of the podcast, Danny McDevitt. I brought double Maliceptor into double Hammerhead, which like conceptually you're like, oh, that's scary. And then in practice, you're like, oh, wait. If you stand a Maliceptor towed into a forest with a Venom Thrope nearby, that Hammerhead can't hit on better than 4s and can't wound on better than 4s. You may not get a save against it, but like, it did
Those are
nothing.
A couple of big coin flips.
Yeah, it's some real big coin flips. He failed to hit with the first one, failed to wound with the second one, and I was like, okay. Cool.
Do I one-shot your Maliceptor or not? Let's see. 4 up.
Yeah, it's a little harder to one-shot, but yeah, and obviously if you can get Catalyst on the right one, that'll help out a lot as well.
Yeah.
So I am. Zach says he wants to play Ninth. He's only got 10 Gargs. 10 Gargs is probably fine. I like 20, but 10, it's not like you need 60 or anything silly like that. Yeah, so I think Tower in a really good place. They still have a lot of very strong tools, can capitalize on the meta pretty well. But you have to think about what goes into your army now. It's not just like run forward blasting, which is what the game should be. Please make Tyranids that. Do you have something to add there, Lucas?
Yeah, I just feel like the time of the low AP, high volume weapons is gone because you just can't get free AP anymore.
Yeah.
I don't think that AFPs are good. Like a smart missile system that doesn't ignore cover, that has 1 less strength. Yikes. That is less range. That's just bad. I feel like
It's
you
got a
just
pip
want
of AP at least, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like you just want mass, high strength, moderate damage, good AP. And then you just cry into Tyranids basically, but isn't everyone?
I will say we'll talk a little later about how I think you can beat bugs, but I think mass 2 damage is really not a bad place to start.
Yeah.
Obviously Carnifex is less so, but you know, I that is what scares me when someone lines up a wall of shuriken cannons. I get nervous. Though obviously now you're playing into the field terribly to maybe play better into bugs. So we'll talk more about that later. All right, so that's Tau, and then Harleys. Nick was saying earlier that his buddy is still having great success with Harleys. They still hit like a truck. I played into Harleys last night, into light with 6 voids and all that stuff. They
6
still 6, 3 squads of 2.
All right.
You think 9 is still the move?
No, I think 3's the move.
You think 3's the move?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think 6 is good.
Whatever the case, the mobility of Harlequins is still their biggest asset. And yes. I think that the fact that hasn't changed at all, that we're still talking about boats that go 22 and shoot without penalty, very strong. That being said, I've been saying this for a while, and people looked at me a little bit crazy. The way that you beat Harlequins is that you mess with their action economy. You prevent them from being able to shoot all the things at once with good threat saturation. That's intelligent. Like, you have to offer them terrible targets to shoot at, and then also offer them chaff. Biovores are the best thing in NIDS for this, because if I can say you have to kill these spore mines or they're going to blow up in your face, and you can't kill them in melee or they'll blow up in your face, that makes it real bad. Or if I can just say, hey, you need to kill monster Garg's character, like they just can't chew through it all, especially if you can get a -1 to hit in there. And that is so much more true now that they're down 350 points or what have you.
How did you feel the 6 voids were? Like, did they feel scary or no? Do you think it would have been scarier if they had more guys in boats with fusions and stuff?
The guys in the boats just don't really bother me because it's so many points that you have to trade with. The second, I guess I'm just gonna like dribble out my how to beat Tyranids. The second best thing you can have into bugs is long range anti tank.
Okay.
That is not a thing that a lot of armies have access to, but if you do, it's essential because Nids have a bit of a reach out and touch problem where they're not quite as fast as they'd like to be. Obviously, we got stuff like Raveners and the Flyrant that can go out and do things like that, but those are melee options. And if I'm trying to get to you in melee, you can probably screen me out fairly well. And Void Weavers fit into that category very nicely. He was able to do a lot of damage from pretty relative safety by moving 22 and then shooting from all the way across the board. Like it seemed like an effective way to do that. So I think the Voids are still very good for that reason. Okay. And the Shurikens, like I said, still do work into bugs. If he had to every turn to do his damage, throw away 2 boats full of dudes with fusions, we're talking like 300 points of a trade that maybe kills something, maybe doesn't. As opposed to the Voids, which, regardless of what they're doing, the damage is coming from far, far away. So I think that's kind of the one hit, the 2-punch comp, the bang bang, the combo that's gonna give Tyranids a little bit of a fit.
Yeah. Did you end up like taking over the board though, basically? Like
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, that's the
he
worry.
He played the primary very well. He held me to a 4-4-4 straight up. All 4 turns to score 4 points. We're playing Tide of Conviction, so it's a domination mission, so obviously a little bit more challenging in other situations. And there was a bit of misplay on my part there. I'm still getting practice on getting my obsecs in all the right places. So the primary score is very tight. The problem is Tyranids are just too good at secondaries. Because I got a 15 onto the last, I got a 15 on Stranglehold, I think I only got an 8 on R&D because I failed my don't roll a 6 roll on the last turn. But odds are I get a 12 on R&D, and Harlequins just didn't have a way to keep up with that without expending incredible amounts of resources to do so.
Okay.
So I think Harlequins feel like they're in an interesting place. I think they're probably still up there fighting with the big dogs. Is this enough? We'll find out how they do into the field. Is it enough to prevent them from being the apex predator and shutting down Tyranids? I guess, but like that's a pretty low bar. I think we already had a pretty good match into them before they lost 300 points. So
yeah,
we'll see how that goes. Have you had any experience into any of these armies, Lucas?
Into Harlequins? I mean, I've played against pre-nerf Harlequins, and I have not really played against Tyranids yet. So
gotcha.
I have a lot of experience into power armor and not much into other stuff.
Okay. Have you played into new bugs yet either, Nick?
No, yeah, we don't have any bug players here in Portland. Like there's some in Salem and like around, but no, haven't played against anyone here.
Cool beans. Well, I'll have to come up and give you all a little education sometime.
Please do.
Be a good time. All right. Cool. So that's what we got on kind of some of the new meta coverage stuff. You guys ready to jump into our main attraction today?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Awesome. So, Lucas, this was your idea. I will definitely yield the floor to you if you want to explain what's going to go on here.
Yeah, so we kind of put the idea out to the Discord for fun things to talk about during our show, and one of the things that Billy suggested was like you walk up to the table and you're playing X, it doesn't really matter what it is, and you see Y across the table from you. What are your initial thoughts and feelings about the matchup? How are you going to play it? What secondaries are you going to pick? Just kind of like general how to approach the game before you even get started. Most games of 40K are not, maybe not most, but a very good percentage of 40K games are lost before a single die is even rolled. I mean, maybe the attacker defender die happens first, but before anyone starts shooting at each other. And that's because macro strategy is really important, and there's many ways to botch it. I certainly have. So in this segment, we don't really have a great name for it yet. I just titled it here "Scenarios and Strategy." We're gonna give ourselves a scenario. So we're gonna say, like, for example, our first one, Tyler. If you go to the next slide, let's see if I organize this correctly. Is we're gonna put ourselves in the shoes of Nick, right? He's playing his Obsec Necrons. Um, we'll quickly go over the list as a review. We talked about it several times before, but we'll go over it one more time. And then we'll give ourselves a matchup, right? So we're gonna say we're gonna play Nick's Obsec Necrons into Grey Knights on this mission. How are we feeling? What are we scared of our opponent doing? What's our strategy? What secondaries are we picking? So, and then we'll talk about that for a little while. We'll just have a little roundtable discussion, and then we'll go on to another matchup. So, and then we'll go to my orcs, we'll go to Tyler's Tyranids, we'll talk about things.
Yeah.
Does that sound good,
So,
guys?
yeah, I'm super excited. Let's jump right into it. Nick, you want to give us a quick recap on what goes down in your Necron list?
Yeah. So this was the version that I played at Pecking Order, GT back in February, and also RTT. So it is a pregame move OBSEC. Super cool. Got the Silent King. He's the only one that doesn't have the Dynasty traits or the chapter tactics. Got a Technomancer with Veil of Darkness, reroll charges, hands out a buff to rates. Catacomb Command Barge. He's got, Take staff -1 damage, 5 immortals, 3 squads of 4 claw rates, 2 squads of 5 Scorpex, 1 squad of 4 Scorpex, 1 squad of 3 Scarabs. I think that's still the typo from last time. Whoops. 2x6 flayed ones, 2x1 plasma sites, a Hexmark with Gauntlet, and 2x1 Locus Heavy Destroyers. I mean, since this time, I definitely changed the list a little bit, but we'll review the one that the viewers are familiar with and the one I have the most reps with, because I think that's interesting for this.
Cool beans. So it's round 1 of the tournament. Nick is feeling ready for a GT. He walks up to the table. They're playing right through the packet. We're playing Recover the Relics, old school. What do they used to call this?
Retrieval.
Old school retrieval. So we got Hammer and Anvil. We got our 6 objectives lined up. Pretty defensive mission. Let's assume we're doing this on player placed, like some of the normal FLG kind of stuff, because that's what we probably have the most experience with. And you're playing at Grey Knights. What does Grey Knights look like these days, guys? I'm guessing we're talking like 30 interceptors, 10 or 20 pallies. What do you guys think?
You definitely have 20 to 30 interceptors. We can talk about what do you do if your opponent brings Terminators or Paladins versus Dread Knights. I don't
Sure.
actually know in the Grey Knight community which one of those is better, but we can talk about both scenarios.
Yeah, the list I played against the other night was like all Terminators, but that's because Max hates Dread Knights, so
Yeah.
that's
He also thinks Paladins aren't good, which is an interesting take.
Yeah. But
Cool.
give me what I'm up against. What do we
Yeah,
play?
let's start with Terminator. So let's say the opponent has like 15 strikes, 20 interceptors, and then like a 10 brick of paladins and a bunch of characters, maybe some rhinos.
He's got to have Drago. He's got to have the Libby. He's got to have. Doesn't need the Tech Marine anymore. He's obviously got the Rights of War on that Librarian, so he's got plenty of OBSEC to go around. For Grey Knight Terminators OBSEC, or the Terminators are, the Paladins aren't, right?
Yes.
Right.
Is that and that OBSEC is for everyone? The Rights of War.
It's core in character, yeah.
It's core. Are Paladins core?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So he's got a big brick of OBSEC Paladins that he wants to go park in the middle. Obviously, no center objective here. But yeah, so that's the vague idea of what the list is. Maybe he's got a Rhino or two. What are you thinking, Nick?
Yeah. So unfortunately, I don't really have much experience in the Grey Knights with Necrons. I kind of just like dodge them every time I've gone to tournaments, and I've only played practice games with like Orcs and T-Suns into Grey Knights. So I'll talk about my list real quick. I talked about it in the past, like when I got second at that GT. The list has 3 secondaries baked into it for the most part. So Stranglehold is super strong because the whole army is objective secured. Stranglehold being, hold 3 at the end of your turn and more than your opponent. Code of Combat is also quite strong because that is a Necron specific secondary. Whenever the Silent King or the Catacomb Command Barge finishes off a unit, I get 3 victory points, and there's no cap on that per battle round. So you can just like pick up a few early or clean up late game. And then the last one's retrieve Nachman data. That's what the 12 flayed ones are for. They deep strike innately. They're a squad of 6. They come down. They retrieve in the quadrants, and then my squad of 5 immortals kind of does a little shuffle over the the game and gets it later in the game. So that's like usually just what I have locked in, regardless of my opponent. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Once you show up with a 6 objective mission, Stranglehold becomes a lot more difficult. Because Stranglehold on 5 objective missions, there's usually the objective in the middle. You're able to like hold the one in your DZ incredibly safely. You're able to hold like the one like kind of right above your DZ pretty easily. And you're able to like throw in a sacrificial unit every turn to clear the middle, and eventually you storm the middle and like there you go, game's over. 6 objective missions, you have to string your army out to hold the 3 here, especially like a prep for the relics. You got to hold your 3 out here. So your army's pretty spread out. And if you want Stranglehold, you either have to A, go over and take one of those from your opponent, or B, shoot them off. Shooting them off is fairly doable. My army's not really doesn't have mini gun though, and it's something as durable as like Grey Knight Terminators and Paladins. I don't think I'm going to shoot them off. And also, since we're playing on player placed, they're probably making both of these safe because it is Hammer and Anvil, right? They get to deploy on their side of the board. Why would they not put a LOS blocking Ruin? So Stranglehold's pretty tough here. I don't know how much I like it. I think if I was more familiar with how much output, like of damage my units had into theirs, I could be pretty confident being like, yeah, I'll like go take one of your objectives and get Stranglehold. Um, because I don't know super well, I might try a bit of a different playstyle. There's a Necron specific secondary called Purge the Vermin, which is Herd the Prey, basically. So it's at the end of the my turn. I get 2 victory points for each quadrant that is clear of enemy units, or that doesn't have an enemy unit wholly within it. And that can be scored battle round 2 onwards. So I don't like deviating too much from that because now my whole plan is a little bit out of whack. It's like Purge, R&D, and what, right? I think into Grey Knights, I might take like Purge, R&D, Abhor. Abhor is like super strong secondary into them. My army doesn't have Psychers. Necrons don't take Psychers. Let's go. And they just have a lot of little units running around. Like every character I kill is 3 points, right? Every non-character I kill is 2.
Yep.
What I worry about with Purge is that's playing into what they want. Purge is an incredibly strong secondary into an army that doesn't want to come over to your side of the table. Because now they have to come over to your side of the table to deny points, and that means they come into kill range of the Scorpex and the King. But Grey Knights are probably, because like they have Terminators that can deep strike for free. They have the Gate of Infinity to deep strike a unit, and they can do that every turn. They got the strikes with like the jump packs that can also teleport across the battlefield. So my opponent could see me take Purge and just be like, okay, I'm gonna like ram my whole army in your face. And so now it just comes down to, can I clear their army fast enough? And I think maybe. I think if the first time playing into Grey Knights, I'd probably take this play style: Purge, Abhor, RND. So they can either sit back and deny Abhor, but then I get a 15 on Purge, or they can come at me and try to deny Purge, and if it goes well for me, I get a 30 on Abhor and Purge. And RND, like, they're a fairly elite army. They're not going to devote like a whole squad to sitting in the back corner for 3 turns. Like, especially both back corners. Like, I'm at least getting flayed once into one corner. And since I got the Veil of Darkness on the Technomancer, like late game, once like I didn't get tabled, I can go over and get my 12. So
I would be curious to see what they could do if they went for that really defensive style. Because on the one hand, you're totally right; they're just handing you a 15 on Purge. But if they can sit back properly, like you said, you don't have any particularly long range. It takes you 2 turns to get anywhere. If they sit all the way back, they can probably zone out your R&D, hold you to a 4 on that, and fight your Abhor pretty hard. I'd be curious how that style would be able to work out for them. I don't know a lot of Grey Knight players who'd be willing to do that, because that's like a real, like, your army is gas, and saying no to that seems like a big downside. But I'd be curious to see how the points shake out on that, especially based on who goes first. Because if you go first and they get to do that going second, interesting. Though I guess they're like, what do you think the Grey Knight player is taking, Lucas?
Yeah, that's the interesting question. How aggro do they want to be? Versus, I mean, the same conundrum that Nick had is true for the Grey Knights, right? Stranglehold is not very reliable on this mission. It's pretty scary, and that's kind of like a staple Grey Knight secondary. It's a staple everyone's secondary.
Mm-hmm.
But you can take Purify. This is a great mission
Ritual
for
is
purifying.
free. It's totally free.
Yeah. You can take No Prisoners. That's pretty free against Nick's list. And then the last one is like, do you take Banners? Do you take Stranglehold? I don't like Rod with Grey Knights. I feel like you want your units to be
What
doing
about
things.
To the Last? Oh wait, you already took No
Can't
Prisoners.
take No
so you
Prisoners.
can't take To the Last.
Right.
I might take To the Last instead of No Prisoners, if that's going to be the Paladins and like Drago and the Librarian. I don't know what the points are like in Grey Knights, if that's silly and like the Interceptor is going to be more expensive.
If you wanted to promote Nick having to come out and fight you, then you would definitely take To the Last. I think No Prisoners is the safer take against him. There's been many games where I'm like, oh, should I take this against No Prisoners? And then I take it. Or sorry, should I take No Prisoners against Necrons? And then I take it and I still get like a 14, even though I felt like I did terrible. No Prisoners is a shoe-in against Necrons, and you should pretty much always
my
take it.
list gives up like 100 like 20 before reanimations.
Yeah.
So it's
So with that in mind, they probably both want to force each other to come to them. I think Banner seems like a pretty good take then, because either he can slam forward and say, "There's no way, like you don't fly. There's no way in hell you're getting to my backfield to take down my banners. I can put like my strikes, especially if he has rhinos. If he can put 5 strikes in a rhino on an objective, or actually, I guess Nick doesn't have guns, so just 5. But like, he's got 5 strikes on an objective. Nick doesn't have a great way of dealing with that behind a wall. Right. Apply all the pressure, score all the banner points. Yeah. So I think they probably go in, and you end up in the situation where you both want the same thing to happen, which is always really fun. I love when that happens in a game of 40K, when it's like, I am betting all my marbles on running in and crumping you, and you are betting all your marbles on me running into you and trying to, stave that off. So that seems like a really cool situation to find yourself ending up in.
Yeah.
Plus, because you're naturally going to be getting no prisoners points, and Purifying and Banners are both really defensively oriented secondaries, at that point you can just sit on your half of the table and make Nick make the first move, which is a very powerful kind of situation to be in. You always want to make your opponent make the first move. And the nice perk of that is, at the same time, you can just screen out R&D for free. If Nick wants to play a slower game, then I'm going to screen out your R&D for the first 2 or 3 turns. And if you don't, then we're going to be starting to fight, and my army hits.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of the thing, is that like if Nick wants to hold back on no prisoners, he's also losing out on R&D. So and the R&D being a 4, there's no way in hell that Nick prevents 4 points of no prisoners from being expended eventually. And Nick will get 15 on code. And what was your third one? You took R&D and no prisoner. Oh, Abhor.
Abhor and Purge.
Purge, that's what it's called. Yeah. If you want to get Abhor, you have to go out to play. If he wants to get no prisoners, he has to come out to play. So it's sort of a dead lot, right? Because you both have 2 freebie secondaries, Banners and...
well, the downside with Banners is if I go first, I could rocket a Scarab Squad over, and now they can't banner turn 1.
Yeah. There's ways to prevent the banners from going up, which is
I'm totally fine sacrificing a Wraith Squad and a Scarab Squad to stop 2 banners from being put up if I go first. So it's a bit of a risky play there from the Grey Knights.
Yeah, if the Necron player goes first, Banners is sus. But if the Necron player goes second, then Banners is a very solid objective.
Yeah, now it's like, okay, now I have to go over there and fight you. So
yeah.
But also, if the Necron player goes first, the Grey Knight player gets to go second in the first place, which is a big advantage on this mission.
That's absolutely true.
As it's really hard to be fighting for that extra 4 points of primary until the end of the game, when it's very easy to grab.
Yep.
So
interesting.
The other thing I'll say about Purifying, I know Purifying, it's an action you can do multiple times, right? And each objective you get gives you a point.
It's 1, and then it's 2. So if you do it on 3 objectives, you get 4 points.
Okay. Because the king does have that built-in psychic defense, so I could park him nearby, an objective and try to mess with that points here and there.
Sure.
So
yeah, it might add up. That secondary is basically.
No, I think the Grey Knight player still takes it, but it's I have some way to interact with it at least. So.
Especially if you can stop the third one, right? Because if they get the 2 off, that's 2 points, and that third one is doubles that. If you can hold them down, because they'll get 10 points out of it. If you can. It's just a question of if you can prevent them from doing it. You have to stop them 3 whole times. Maybe they just fail to cast once or twice. It happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, interesting stuff. Cool. So this sounds like a really exciting game. I kind of want to go watch this right now.
I think this mission is really fun. This mission is so defensively oriented, but all the tertiaries and ways you score your secondaries are.
We haven't talked about kill points at all.
Yeah, you have to go to your opponent and start the game, but at the same time you have 3 objectives on your side, so what do you do?
Yeah,
it's fun.
Cool. So 2 questions. First off, Zach the Bird asked from chat, how is no prisoners affected by reanimation protocols? Nick, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe every time you kill a guy it counts. If he stands back up and you kill him again, it counts again.
Yep, it counts guys that are brought back.
Yeah, awesome. And then my question on this was, how does Abhor interact with combat squads?
I think they're considered separate units.
They are considered separate units because it's scored right when you kill the unit, and they count as separate units. I believe so.
Let me check that, because Abhor feels like one of those ones that would be weirdly at the end of the game. Got the packet right here. Warpcraft before the Witch. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle for each enemy Psyker character unit that is destroyed, and 2 victory points for each other enemy Psyker unit that is destroyed.
I still think it's the same way though,
Yeah,
because
like grind them
once
down
you
and stuff
combat
still
squad,
works
they
like that.
immediately start counting as extra units, different units.
Okay, cool. So that's sort of an interesting thing. If you're playing Granites, maybe he doesn't combat squad as much as he would otherwise. But then he's not trading quite as well, because 5 interceptors going in and killing a squad of scarabs or immortals or what have you feels a lot better than throwing 10 away for that. Okay, cool. Alrighty. Well, this game sounds like a lot of fun. I hope you and Max have a chance to play it later, and we'll see how it goes. Are you guys ready to move on to the next one?
Let's do it.
Cool. All right, so up next we got Lukas's Orcs, also known as Pile of Meat. What do you got, Lucas?
2 Goth patrols. We got Gaz and Makari and the biker boss for some face punching. We've got the big mech and the weird boy for some defense and some buffing. We've got 2x10 beast snagger boys, no upgrades. 16 meganobs in 3 squads. 12 piggies in 3 squads and 3 wagons, one of which is T8. So just a big old wall of meat that runs right at the opponent.
Has this list changed at all since last we talked about it?
Oh, I'm thinking about some changes. I'm thinking about getting some burners in there. I'm wondering if the piggies and or the snaggers are worth it. I'm wondering about putting in more meganobs, but I haven't enacted any of those changes
Okay,
yet.
for sure.
This is hot on Burnas, dude. He's been talking about it to me like multiple times this week.
Especially with Mirror Architect gone, right? It
I
seems
just
like
don't want
to.
to. I don't want to lose to Eldar, man. I
I
hate
don't think
Eldar.
Burnas are the answer.
Alrighty, so we got that, and Lucas is going into Boar Can Tau, baby. Do you still have a Kef?
Yep.
Yeah, Mech.
Yeah, you still got a Kef. So no Kef for you when I'm feeling like it. We're playing into Borkan. Do you want to just play into, or well, what does Borkan Tau look like post changes? Are we talking triple storm surge? Are we talking something a little more mixed up?
I think
Maybe
Crisis suits are the
Riptide.
best part of.
Just still play
like-
Max Crisis.
I like Max's list, honestly.
Yes, something like
What's
that.
he got going on?
You
We're just playing
basically
into Max all 3 games. That's what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
you basically take a bunch of plasma and sibs. You take the relic flamer. You take the Riptide, and you
Mhm.
take a bunch of scoring stuff. I think
Cool.
is basically the gist of it.
Sounds good. All right, so that's what you're playing into. We got a giant pile of crisis suits, a Riptide that can ignore invulns with its strength 8 gun, very scary for your battle wagons, and
An enforcer and a crisis
scoring.
commander.
Yep, definitely enforcer, definitely crisis commander. See the cold star still popping up sometimes. I don't know what y'all are doing. Get on that enforcer hype train. He's what's up.
Enforcer
We're playing Tide of
gang.
Conviction, the Enforcer Gang. We're playing Tide of Conviction, which is becoming one of the more controversial missions, as it as all domination missions are. So this is for those of you at home who may not remember the names of the missions. Tide of Conviction is the wonky Dawn of War style one with the 6 objectives, 1 in the very front of each deployment zone, and then 4 offset in midfield. And the secondary or the tertiary here is holding 1 in your opponent's half of the table, and then at the end of the game, extra for holding your opponents in their deployment zone as well. Also noteworthy that you do not score a command point do not pick up your Battleforge CP bonus every turn if you don't hold your home field objective. There's a lot of kind of bullying potential there. What are your thoughts going into this one, Lucas?
Well, the great thing is that this is going to be probably on a player placed situation. And my list really likes player placed terrain because it can stick a forest. Basically, the place I would place it is you see my home field objective, go 3 inches toward the opponent and like 2 or 3 inches over to the right, and drop a big old forest right there and park my battle wagons in it. Where am I going to put my other pieces of terrain? The line of sight blockers aren't actually to protect the battle wagons, they're to protect the squads of pigs and to get them upfield to a spot where they can connect. I would think one kind of on the left side, so I could threaten my opponent's left side home objective, and then one toward the right, so I can sit safely on my own right side home objective.
Makes sense.
Those are the places the piggies want to hang out. In general, what I find most effective against Tau is you put a bunch of stuff in the middle. They do as much damage to you as possible, and then what you connect with afterward still picks them up because you still hit so hard in melee. So the forest helps out with that a lot because Tau don't have. How does the forest benefit the battle wagon? It gives it -1 to hit because if you're towed into the forest, they can't draw a line to the entirety of your hull without going into the forest. So they take the dense penalty. So the wagon's -1 to hit. And Tau really don't like -1 to hit. Especially not Farsight, where the marker light's a little bit more scarce. It can be hard for them to even hit you on 4s. Um, and that ignore invuln Riptide is definitely scary, but at the end of the day, he is strength 8, so he needs to shoot at a T7 wagon. And I'm still getting 6 up armors and 6 up feel no pains. So I could totally survive that. And then the plasma, I'm still getting 5 up invulns. The Big Mech, this is the one matchup where the Big Mech, I basically take him for Tau. Is he helps out so much against the plasma rifles, it's not even funny. What am I thinking about in terms of secondaries? Definitely Stranglehold. I want to incentivize my opponent to put units on his midfield objective so I can kill them. And then from there, let's see. No Prisoners. No Prisoners is a take people don't actually do very often against Tau, but especially if they're more suit heavy. Those suit bricks give up a ton of No Prisoners tally. It's like 3 points or something like that. And then Stomp 'em Good. Oh no, sorry, I can't take Stomp 'em Good and No Prisoners. Bummer. So I'll take Stomp 'em Good because Tau don't kill anything in melee. And then from there, probably Warp Ritual. My Psyker will probably live 3 turns. He can give up one of his turns of casting Warp Ritual to cast Warpath if I really need it. And then from there, I should be able to get 12 points on Warp Ritual. So I've got a decent secondary lineup in play, and my goal is just to deny enough primary points turns like 1 through maybe 4 if I'm still alive that I eke out a win.
Gotcha. How big of a deal is going first versus second in this matchup for
It's a
you?
massive deal. I would love to go first. Getting 12 inches further up the table, just such a big deal against Tau. You're not really able to hide from them, so they're going to be doing a whole turn of damage into you either way. If you go second, that's probably 2 turns of damage, which is really unpleasant. So going first is a really big deal. That being said, going second gets you a lot of points in this mission, right? So maybe
Yeah.
there's something with that. But I feel like this mission is all about momentum. Or sorry, not this mission. I feel like my army is all about momentum, and if I get started on the back foot, losing a wagon and a half on turn 1, then
Mm-hmm.
not great.
We got a
Yeah.
question about the Big Mac in the chat.
Yep. How does the Big Mech help against plasma rifles? Zach, you were asking excellent questions. The plasma rifles are AP4, so they're cutting straight through your 3 up armor save. On the turn which you need to survive the Tau's like initial strike, be that on turn 1, it's almost certainly on turn 1. You pay 2 CP and turn on a 9-inch aura of 5 up invuln. So it doesn't matter how much AP you have, doesn't matter how much you want to counter the new Armor of Contempt meta. I don't care. I'm taking my 5 up invuln, 6 up feel no pain, and I'm gonna be happy.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's the reason the Big Mac's in there.
This just occurs to me. Have you considered taking a second Big Mac? Can you use that stratagem twice if you have 2
No,
different mechs?
I think the stratagem is once per game.
Oh, the stratagem is
Yeah.
once per game. It's not like once per mech. Okay. That would be highly amusing to me if you're just like throwing out a dude who explodes into a force field and then throwing out another one to do the same thing.
Pretty
But
good.
okay. Cool. So the Borcan are what are the Bor I mean, I guess I'm the resident Tau player here. Because I have so much experience with them, definitely. The Borcan are probably also taking Stranglehold here. It's just the thing to take. And if I'm gonna try to use crew units and stuff like that, because you don't have a lot of small shooting, do you?
No, I have bolt guns. Actually, I can kill crew very easily.
That was my question. Can you kill
His
crew?
custom
I think-
shooters.
Yeah, with some effective terrain placement, I can probably keep crew mildly safe
Yes.
for long enough to throw them on some objectives while putting out some massive amounts of hurt. What do you give up, bring it down wise in this list? Is it anything meaningful? Are the
11.
wagons 12 or are they 15?
The wagons are 3 points each, Gaz is 2, so I give up 11
Gotcha.
points on that.
Okay.
I give up like 12 or 13 points to no prisoners and 15 on assassinate. I do feel like that should be the Borcan strategy, is to table me.
Yeah.
To just kill as much as possible in the first 3 turns, give up points, and then score them all late game. And I feel like the best way to do that is probably no prisoners, assassinate. Mary, what do you guys feel about aerospace targeting? Do you know what that secondary is?
Is that's the do an action in the 4 corners of the table?
Yes.
I think that is fantastic into you in particular and very few other people.
Especially on this mission, like I
yeah,
don't want to go to the corners of the board. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, the one obviously the one in your DZ is always free. The one on his far flank, on your left, his right flank, completely free. There's no way in hell you're ever getting there. the one on his left, your right flank, very doable. And then late game, like, you abandon your home field, man. That's just kind of what you do. That seems like a really good take. What category is it, though?
It's Shadow Ops, right?
Yep.
I think so.
Shadow Ops.
Doesn't the Ethereal even like just hand out shoot do action every turn for free to a core unit?
For sure, but like the core unit, not the Ethereal is never going to be in the corners.
Yeah, but like, he
But,
could
like,
give it to a guy and then they blast over to a thing and then shoot in aerospace, right?
Possibly, yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
that's very
Yeah,
strong.
that's a good late game. That's probably how you're getting the one on that right flank there.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So this feels like an uphill battle.
It
To me,
does.
Lucas.
Yep.
What are you? What kind of like realizing that you're probably set up to be on the back foot here, especially if you go second. What kind of like larger risks are you able to implement to try to let your dice maybe bail you out of that a little bit if you're not going to win, if you're not winning from the sort of start stationary position?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think those kind of risks are most of the risks I take are how long of a charge am I willing to risk, right?
Mhm.
Anything past like 7 inches is starting to get unreliable. But maybe in this kind of matchup, I would tolerate, a decent advance puts me at a 7 or 8 inch charge. That's something I'm willing to go for if it's going to deny 4 or 7 points or something like that. When
Mhm.
usually I'd be much more risk averse. So I'd be much more lenient toward risks related to charge distance. The other thing is using Gaskell aggressively. I'm
Mm.
often scared of using him aggressively, but against Borkan in particular, they haven't, and because people aren't really going to be taking that funny burst cannon anymore. They're only doing 4 wounds of phase to him. So he is starting right at the front of my DZ, and he is going straight toward the enemy objective in their DZ, and nothing is going to stop him. I'm a command pointing his advance every turn. I don't care. I'm doing it.
What's the cutoff? Is it will you reroll a 3? Will you reroll a 4?
No, I will not reroll a 3. I'll reroll a 2. I will reroll a 1 or a
Okay.
2.
You won't
Yeah.
reroll a 3 though. That was what I was.
The 2
That's
will
what I was
become
curious
a
for those high
1,
risk
dude.
plays.
The 2
Yeah.
always becomes a 1. That
It's
was my
still
rule with
worth
Mech.
doing.
You never
It's still
CP the
worth
2
doing.
damage.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm willing.
I had that happen in my game last night to the Harlequins. We're playing this mission. And I'm like, I gotta go. Maliceptors, go get him. Rolls a 1. Okay, that's fine. The other one rolls a 1. Command point into a 1. And I'm like,
Bummer.
feels great.
Bummer.
And then the Harlequins are like, let me countercharge, but it's pretty damn far away. Let me just see the advance. Oh, it's a 6. Oh, it's a 6. Oh, it's a 6. And I was like, well, that's how we'll start the game. Anyway,
Luck of the laughing god.
he didn't need it. Cool. So that seems like an interesting strategy. I'm excited to watch all these games, but that seems like an exciting game plan. What do you think your odds are in this game, Lucas?
I mean, against a well-piloted Tau player, probably like 20 or 30% max.
Yeah, I mean, you've only played this matchup like 200 times, right?
The thing is, it's against Max, who is an absolute Chad and wants to like get up close and fight me. So I run up into the middle on turn 1. He's like, "Yeah, let's go, Exemplar the Macaw, reroll wounds." I'm like, "Okay, sure, I'll take a little more damage and then kill you. That's fine."
Yeah. And I mean, I don't think it's uncommon for Tau players to see a giant wall and just accept the challenge, right? Like they
Yeah.
put out hurt, and if they say, "Oh my," like as a Tau player, when my opponent, as a longtime Tau player, thanks Max for the as a longtime Tau player, when my opponent says, "Here's my army," I say, "Oh, come to daddy!" Like I've got something for you. I'm licking my chops. It's really hard to say, "Okay, fine, let me take a step back, allow you to come at me for another turn, zone you out with a line of Kroot or whatever." Like I don't want to do that. I'm playing Tau. I want to kill stuff, and especially because your secondaries are built to table. So I think there's a little bit of a psychology game there of trying to wave a little bit of meat out in front of the fish, little fish food.
Yeah, there are 2 big mistakes a Tau player can make that could lose them the game, and one of those is you put all your stuff forward because you think that the rerolls to wound are worth it at close range on turn 1. They're not. You need to take a turn or 2 and chip damage into my army. And 2, you think that the Crisis Brick with 5 of Feeling the Pain is going to survive. No.
They're
Nothing
dead.
survives Goffs. Nothing survives Goffs. Its weakness is that it's inflexible and it's relatively slow. You cannot survive them. It's insane in melee.
I am very excited to play the bugs into this because I want to see if I can do it. I feel like I can do it, but
You
that
definitely
level of
can.
cockiness. Oh, okay. We'll see. All right, cool. So that sounds like a great fun. You guys should just have Max over and play all these games. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
But though Max has been watching, he knows all your secrets, so we'll see if he can figure it out.
I keep telling him this, and he just doesn't do it. That's all I know.
I've actually just been feeding him misinformation this whole time.
Yeah, everything we've said in this podcast has been a lie.
Sorry to all our listeners. Yeah, it's all to trick everybody.
The reverse psychology. We're just messing with Max.
Just a ruse for that one guy. Okay, cool. We're gonna move on over to my matchup here. I'm playing Bugs. I'm playing Leviathan. This is the current list that I'm working on for my GW match into or my NIDS list for GW Seattle, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. If you're looking at this list and start tailoring against me, and then I show up with something slightly different, I'm sorry. I'm still trying to figure it out. But this is what I'm at right now. I've got a Flyrant with the Reaper of Obliterax and Direct Guidance. I didn't put my spells in here, by the way, but don't worry about it. They're what you think they would be. And if you don't know what they'd be, join our Patreon and ask me. It'll be great. So he's got the Reaper of Obliterax, so he murders stuff, and Direct Guidance to hand out +1 to hit to a core unit. We got a Neurothrope with Tendrils to hand out his 3d6 cast twice, and the Resonance Barb for another +1 to cast and extra power. So he knows 3 plus the basic plus Smite, so he knows 5 spells. Only casts 2, but casts at minimum +2. Could be casting on 3d6 at +3 if he really wants to get spells off. We got 2 squads of 10 Gargs. We got 5 warriors with Double Sword Deathspitter, Lashbone on the cannon guy. They got glands and they got hooks. Hooks! Love me some hooks. It's a fun word to say. 6 warriors of the same build. Only 1 cannon. I know I could have 2. I could technically have 4, but I only need 1. Death Leaper, Paramaliceptors, 3 Venoms, 3 Zones, the Parasite of Mortrex with Obsec 5, I think it's Alien Cunning, and the Sack, which is the greatest relic of all time. We got 5 Raveners with Rending Claws and Death Spitters, and a pair of Biovores. Anything that I should cover in a little bit more depth here, guys?
What does the sack do?
Please explain the sack.
Oh, the Sack. The Sack. Everyone loves the Sack. The Sacktown Sack, once I win a G2 with this in Sacramento. The Gestation Sack is what it's called.
Stop.
The relic is called the Gestation Sack, and it unlocks an action that you can do once per game in the shooting phase. Starts at the top of the shooting phase, ends at the bottom of the shooting phase, so it just means you can't shoot that turn. And at the end of the shooting phase, once you've done the thing, you roll a d3, and you get that many +1 Ripper Swarms in a unit that has to be set up within 3 inches of the model, in this case, the Parasite of Mortrex. You'll notice that at no point in time did I say anything about being 9 inches away from anybody else. This is also free, no reinforcement points. So my model is somewhere, and I summon a unit of D3 +1 Rippers, minimum 2, so I get 2 Rippers. So let's say, for example, the Parasite jumps up, steals something with Obsec, and then encircles the prey back into the sky, and then drops back down the following turn. And I want to go mess with your objective. Well, my Parasite is 9 inches away. Maybe I'm +1 to charge, so maybe the charge isn't that hard. Who knows? But I don't want to risk that. So let me just burst the sack and get out 2 Rippers. So the first Ripper gets out 3 inches away. So he's 3 inches is out. Then there's 1 1/4 inches for his base, 1 1/4 inches for his buddy's base. That's 2.5 inches. So we're up to 5.5 inches. And then there's 2 inches of coherency between the two of them. So this, if you roll a 1 or a 2, the minimum squad size, you go 7.5 inches. No, 3, 3, 4, 5, 7.5 inches out from your Parasite, which deep struck 9 away, and your Ripper Swarm unit is now 1.5 inches away from the enemy, and then they can charge.
Question. So only the first one has to be set up within 3?
The unit has to be within 3, not wholly within 3. Just
okay. So it's like old Disembark.
Exactly. No, yeah, it's way better. Well, yeah. The first dude, like old Disembark. I can string out.
Oh, just a model in the unit is within 3.
Yeah.
Not the whole unit. Okay, that's
So it's towed in. So there's 7.5 inches. And again, if I roll a 2 on my D3, well, okay, now I get an extra 2, 3.5 inches. Now I'm going, like 11 inches out from where I deep struck to put a unit of Rippers, which are again 4 wounds a model now and can then charge.
Does it say anything about placing them in engagement range?
I believe they can't be placed in engagement range. That is the only qualifier on it. Oh, look, I have a Tyranids code right here. Let me check real quick, because that's worth mentioning if that's a thing. I'm pretty sure it's.
Here I was thinking the sack was a funny summon something relic, and now I find out it's terrifying.
I mean, either way, it's basically denying you 4 points on primary, right?
Yeah.
It's more or less
it
what
also
it does.
it also plays into the target saturation thing that I was talking about, where like if the Biovores put out a unit of spore mines, the Parasite puts out a unit of rippers, and those are two other things that you have to deal with in addition to all of my other crap, you're going to run out of bullets really fast. Because people are just not taking chaff clearing the way they used to. Obviously, with the rise of Marines, that'll be less of a thing, but like I'm not scared of Marines personally. Yeah, it just says they and not within engagement range of enemy units. So
cool. And it's just end
that's
of
the
movement
sack.
phase.
No, so here's the thing. It's shooting phase.
Oh,
So I get to move,
generation.
and then instead of shooting, I burst the sack.
Okay, cool.
Now
Cool.
here's a one more fun piece of tech. The OBSEC 5 Alien Cunning also allows the bearer to advance and then perform actions.
Yo, no. How fast does it move?
16. So she goes 16 plus D6 with her OBSEC 5 and then spews out rippers minimum 7.5 inches further than that.
Okay.
23.5 inches, which means that I can have rippers in your deployment zone on turn 1 if I wanted to.
But the rippers don't have obsec because they're summoned?
They're first off, they're fast attack. Second off, they're not in a detachment. So
okay.
They're super not obsec. But there's a lot of people in the game right now trying to hold objectives with things that aren't obsec. And also remember, the Parasite, you can also use it more defensively because the Parasite is obsec 5. And sometimes you don't, obsec 5 isn't enough. You'd rather be minimum obsec 7. So I'm just going to stand on this objective and poof, okay, there's at least 2 more models on it. So you can't just run 5 dudes onto it to contest it. It's mine. All right.
Cool.
So that's that. The other thing I want to mention in this list is my To the Last. To the Last is the best secondary in the game. You should always build for it. Oh, snap. I literally don't even have them on this list. There's 5 Tyrant Guard. There's 5 Tyrant Guard with Siding Talons in here. They are one of my To the Lasts. The Flyrant is the second, and this wonky 6-man warrior unit is my third. 6 warriors is a fantastic backfield objective holder that do not die unless someone is able to concentrate incredible amounts of firepower on them. And late game, those dudes slap. So I think of them as a fantastic To the Last for that reason. So, what am I up against with all of this heinous buggery? What's up, Lukas?
Could I ask one quick question before we move on?
Of course, yeah.
No Shard Gullet.
No Shard Gullet.
Why?
Guns are for chumps.
Okay.
I need the command points.
Right.
I refuse
He is spending like 7 a turn, so
yeah. The army is very CP intensive, and I am taking the full relics and the full warlord traits in this list. So I'm playing at 8 CP. I'm not willing to drop down to 6 to bring in Shard Gullet. Shard Gullet's great though because the Flyrant having to be the one to wield direct guidance sucks.
What's that?
That's the +1 to hit for a core unit within link range. Which you're like, why does that matter? Like, what does the Flyrant want instead? I don't care about feeling my pain on my Flyrant. A lot of people take that. I don't think it's necessary.
Oh, I guess it's off the board half the turn.
Exactly. Because it's
Okay.
command, well, not the whole turn, but half the command phases, which is what
Right.
counts. But let me tell you, that +1 to hit, I remember he also hands out in the same range, reroll 1s to hit. That makes a unit of Raveners terrifying. That unit of 5 Raveners has 25 attacks, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s, strength 6, AP 4.
Lit.
That unit is 150 points. 8 Rending Claws, baby, AP 4. And then they also have 15 shots, again, hitting on 2s, rerolling 1s at 5-2-1.
Yeah, Nick, they just took old Rending Claws, made them always AP4, and gave them +1 strength.
Yeah, as you do. Just on the Raveners. It's not that way on Gene Stealers. But anyway.
How fast are those guys?
Movement 12.
Okay, that's pretty fast.
And then, everything in the army advances and charges when I want it to. And yeah, Zach points out, -1 damage on the Warriors, fantastic. Especially late game, when people are like slogging around with their little bits of stuff and like, oh man, I gotta kill those 6 Warriors to beat off the objective and deny your To the Last and everything. And I'm like, have your damage. Moving on. All right.
Yep.
So that's the list at the moment. It's a ton of fun. I highly recommend everyone go play it. And we are playing Conversion against Craftworld Eldar, which I literally might be playing in a couple hours. So we'll see how that goes. What am I up against here, boys? What does Craftworld Eldar look like to you?
Nick can totally weigh in on this since he has Craftworld playing experience, but I was thinking something like Colin's list, where maybe you exchange a couple units that we think were as good for, Swooping Hawks and Shining Scorpions. Striking Scorpions and Swooping Hawks. I feel like are the 2 units that we're missing from his list that are just bonkers. So like, I especially wanted to say this because I know long-range anti-tank is scary for you, and I feel like Craftworlds are going to start using 2 Fire Prisms. So I wanted to hear your take on Fire Prisms and how you feel like you can deal with them.
Also, like, what? Probably Ignore Lois is gone now. So it's
Yeah.
probably like there's the 10 Swooping Hawk Brick and then like 5 Striking Scorpions in place of 5 of the Banshees.
Yeah, you might even be able to take. Did Colin have Wind Riders?
No.
No.
Are they
Let's
not
just
good?
let's just say like all the fun aspect warriors with all their good upgrades, mostly the double
Mhm.
fire prism, like Eldrad, Farseer, Obsec, Warlock Bike,
Mhm.
all that stuff.
For sure. Okay, cool. So we're doing that. Is this the sticky one? Looks like it's not.
No.
Okay,
That's Death and Seal.
gotcha. So conversion, and the secondary here is hold the midfield ones or hold your opponent's backfield.
Yep.
Okay. So I am thinking about this. Okay. So the fire prisms are obviously a very big problem because they have that nonsense shenanigan of their battle focusing. We're on player play, so he can set up some pretty solid angles. And their linked fire into battle focus
Malice.
means that they're blasting stuff. They can do real mean things to a Maliceptor, and that is a big concern. My reality check here is that I don't think I need the Maliceptors to win this game.
I agree with that.
My thought is the problem that Craftworld Eldar have is that they can get rushed down really hard, and the fire prisms can only kill one Maliceptor a turn because they have to target one with all their shots. Maybe they kill him, maybe they don't, right? Like it's fairly reliable, but like fate dice and regular dice just don't always work. And if that happens, he's turbo doom. So I am thinking I'm going to try to rush him as hard as I possibly can. I'm thinking terrain here is going to be, it's Dawn of War style terrain, which I don't like, but that's okay. And with that in mind, that means that this top up left objective, I can either leave wide open. He will probably leave wide open. Probably. Maybe he tries to sit something defensible behind it. That's there's a lot of terrain questions here, and then my secondary is going to be built around terrain. As a Craftworld Eldar player, do you guys think that he tries to leave that objective wide open, or he tries to like put a wall on it that allows him to hide from my deployment zone with it, but
I
then hopefully
definitely.
leaves the lane open?
I think if he knows you're going for the rush style, and that's what I would be especially worried about, I would leave that objective open.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't have 5 guys hiding behind that and expect them to survive. You're gonna get charged by warriors or raveners or something, and then return to the shadowed.
Exactly. So if that's being left wide open, I'm very comfortable then doing the opposite for the other one, letting that one be protected, letting him try to fight for that if he wants to. And now I have a really solid game plan, which is that I am going to. Okay, well there's a question. Yeah. So I want a big chunk of terrain. I want to build a wall as close to the middle of the table as possible because I'm not scared of getting close to him. He's got some serious damage for sure. The Banshees and She's are worse if you get up close. Obviously the Scorpions, but like, I don't think that he has the output to deal with me all at once, and I don't think it takes much of my output being left to really put a hurting on him.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm gonna try to build as much of a wall as possible to keep the fire prisms from getting to stuff. I'm gonna find the best possible spot for my Tyrant Guard to be positioned because the Flyrant is a problem. If the Tyrant Guard can be up very far up forwards, the Flyrant is just a little bit back to be untargetable because he doesn't have any snipers. Not that like anything other than fire prisms threaten him in the first place. I don't care if you shoot your Rangers at my Hive Tyrant. Do it. I don't mind. The Flyrant then is going 17 plus D6 because my powers are unblockable. Sorry, Eldar, I don't care how good you are at denying. There's no denying Tyranid powers because you're just not going to be in range. I mean, maybe there's a thing where he like tries to like rocket it's just not going to happen. That's the reality of the situation. I get Onslaught.
He gets 1 denied. You have a 3d6 with like a +3. So like,
yeah, I don't think
he's
it's
not
happening.
denying that.
And also that'd be like a wicked bad trade for him. So because of that, the further up the Flyrant can be, the better. Because the Flyrant is threatening. The Flyrant is going 17 plus D6 plus charge. I'm definitely taking +1 to charge in this matchup because I need to get to him quickly. I don't think there's nothing in Eldar that has meaningful Overwatch, right? Something that I should be scared of or charge
Not
mods.
particularly.
Yeah. These are just the other things that I think about when it comes to my secondary Hive Fleet selection.
The only weird thing is the Warp Spiders get to run away 6 when you charge them.
And then can I reselect after that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so. That doesn't super bother me then. So I'm trying to be real. So the Flyrant then we're talking, he's going like 20 and then charging 7 or 8 very comfortably because he's got the +1. So that, like, being on a corner's deployment, that means that he can threaten the fire prisms from basically anywhere. And if I keep saying Colin, but whoever the craft role player is, if the craft role player wants to try and put a bunch of crap between him and what he's trying to get to, that's fine.
Because then you're gonna kill it anyway.
Doesn't bother me. Yeah. What adaptive trait do I want to take here? I'm almost definitely taking +1 to charge. There's okay.
Yeah,
So
plus
so
one to charge.
we'll probably take the +1 to charge. The tyrant can threaten as much as possible. I'm very comfortable taking to the last here because the tyrant's not going to die. He's just not. I don't think he has a realistic way to kill the tyrant guard. Like, banshees are what, strength 3 with +1 to wound?
Strength 4,
Strength
but
4.
yeah.
Strength 4 with +1 to wound. Okay, so they'll wound me on 4s. AP 2 damage 2.
I would be scared of, like, maybe 2 or 3 squads of aspect warriors all converge on them and burst them down. Like, I'm sure that striking scorpion guy could probably like, he could probably kill 2 or 3 on his own. That striking scorpion squad.
Okay, for sure.
That guy slaps.
Yeah, I believe it. Okay, so my thought is the Maleceptors are there basically to threat saturate. They're going to blitz up as hard as possible, as fast as possible, and put the Eldar in the corner. We're playing Anthony Violence style here. Slam him in the locker, don't let him out. And we're gonna play real hard and aggressive. So with that play style figured out in mind, and then the other thing is, like, I want that jumping off point. If I can have like a solid L, I'm in a real business here because the Tyrant Guard go in it and the Gargoyles go behind it, or even if it's multi-layered solid, which is a thing that exists in some places for some reason. The Gargoyles are on top of it, which is money. They're going to be jumping out. Stranglehold is going to be free. They're going to go grab Stranglehold. They're going to disappear. So I'm definitely taking Stranglehold. I'm probably taking R&D. I'm kind of tempted, honestly, by Spore Nodes, but it's not worth it.
R&D's a pretty easy 8, yeah.
Yeah, because our R&D is a free 8, and then I'm probably taking to the last. What do they give up? They don't give up anything super meaningful other than like Assassinate, which I think is kind of a win more situation.
You could take Grind.
No,
Or is
I'm
that
not taking
not-
Grind.
I think
that's not
to the
real.
last is better than Grind.
Yeah, probably.
Like, all
Right,
of your
'cause-
to the lasts are units he doesn't really want to kill except for the Hive Tyrant, right?
Yeah, exactly. And the Hive Tyrant doesn't die because that's what Hive Tyrants do. Yeah. I have to play a little bit more defensive with him, but because we're playing table quarters and we're already on top of each other, I don't mind that at all.
Yeah.
Because there's this awkward situation where you're like, oh man, do I want the Hive Tyrant to drop an 8-inch charge? Maybe it's on 3 dice. Drop the highest. Who knows? That'd be really great. But it's often just better to just put him back behind the Tyrant Guard and have him threaten next turn because I don't want him to die. So yeah, I'm taking R&D, I'm taking to the last, I'm taking Stranglehold, and I'm just like pedal to the metal going for it. I think he probably kills a Maleceptor turn 1, and that's fine, honestly. I don't need them. The Raveners are going to do wicked amounts of damage here. I got to pop the boats pretty quickly. That's going to be a little interesting. If the Hive Tyrant can't get into Fire Prism, he can probably get into a Wave Serpent, and when the Wave Serpents go away, that list gets a lot more easy to deal with. The Spore Mines are also actually like a really big deal here because if I've set up that objective at the bottom there so that it's protected, that's what's going there every turn. Obviously, I'll throw some stuff to try to hold it long term, but Spore Mines behind a wall on an objective like that are going to be really hard for him to deal with shooting, and he has no indirect, mean that he cannot go play for that objective without something being very durable, and that's going to be a big problem for him.
Yeah.
So that's a big pickup there. Death Leaper is like mildly entertaining in that he can prevent a fire and fade. So like if the fire prisms get to survive, once one of them if he can get into one of them, that's kind of fun. I don't have a ton of crazy strats though, that I really worry about with Death Leaper. But here's an idea. Here's what Death Leaper is doing. Death Leaper is deep striking onto the top left objective. And he is standing there and saying, you can't target me from outside of 12.
Yeah, that's good.
Or not even deep striking. He's just starting on the line because he moves 10. And he's just going to blitz over there, chill out. I think he might have to be on a piece of terrain to do that. So hopefully I get lucky. If you're listening to this, Eldar players, don't put terrain anywhere near that objective.
Yeah.
But if he can get up there and be untargetable outside of 12 and say, you have to come deal with me, he's -1 to hit at all times. He's got a 4-up invuln. He is not an easy customer to deal with. That's going to be a big problem for the Eldar. So it's apply the pressure hard and go.
Yeah, for those that are thinking about how to beat a unit like a Riptide or a Brick of Fire Prisms that can just ignore invulns and delete something big, don't build a game plan around your big thing. Or just take enough of those big things so it doesn't matter if you lose one.
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, if I lose one battle wagon to the fire prisms, oh well. If Tyler loses one Maliceptor to them, oh well. Everything else is still right in the opponent's face, right? Ready to deal a ton of damage and apply a ton of pressure. Eldar want to play their slow game where they get to dictate all the engagements and what gets shot at by what. Don't let them do that. Cram as much stuff into their face as possible and make it an issue turn 1 or 2.
Yeah. What do you think the Eldar player is taking?
Probably Stranglehold. If you're
Yeah,
not
just
getting
have to.
Stranglehold on a 5 objective mission, you're trolling.
And they have like the OBSEC bike and the handout OBSEC power, so
And
it's not
probably Baharroth.
impossible.
Yeah, it's
Baharroth.
very doable.
Yeah, and then here's what it gets rough because like, what else do they take?
They probably take R&D and settle for an 8, unless I leave my back corner open, which is a realistic possibility. No, it's not. There's Biovores there.
Yeah, because they can pay what 1 CP to deep strike.
Deep strike.
Rangers 3 CP to deep strike 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
The swooping hawks get deep strike, so yeah, they can R&D.
Yeah, they can probably R&D. That's fair. And then
the hard part is
the Rangers secondary.
Well, it's that or R&D.
I think that's also shadow operations.
Yeah.
Oh right, okay.
And doesn't that like require them to be like right in my face?
It's 6 away from the Eldar player's DZ, and if it's not in your DZ, it's 2 points, and if they're wholly within your DZ, it's 4 points.
Okay, no, R&D is better than that.
R&D is better.
So R&D, and then from there, I guess you're doing okay on a kill secondary, like no prisoners or something. Just getting like an 8.
Yeah, because this army in theory gives up, what is it going to be? It's 20 from the Tyrant Guard, and then 20 more, and then 15, so we're up to 55, 60, 70, 73, plus another 12 is going to be 85, plus another 12 is 97, plus another 15 is like 112, plus another 8 is 120, plus whatever I summon. The Spore Mines don't count, but the Rippers do. So like it's a very reasonable like 14 if you table me. Probably maybe even get the full 15, but now you're tabling me.
Yeah, I don't think the Eldar player is ever killing your backline squad of warriors.
They're not killing the warriors, they're not killing the Tyrant Guard. I'm not letting that happen.
Yeah. I feel like the hardest part of this game is the macro strategy from you of whether or not to go full aggro on turn 1, and I think it's absolutely the right call. I think the Eldar player can definitely win this game if you play KG and like a little B, you know?
If you let them fight a thing a turn with fire prisms,
yeah.
Right. If you just have the right mindset from turn 1 and just go all gas, I don't think they have I think this is very you favored.
Yeah, I think that it's more my style, frankly, to want to be that sit back, play KG, try to build a fortress out of the terrain such that he can't eke any beads through. It's not realistic. If you are, if you have FLG terrain, you're practicing at home, and you come up with some incredible strategy and it works perfectly, good for you. I think that is probably the wrong strategy into something like Fire Prisms or Hammerheads. I think the better strategy is accept that they're getting a shot up. Play around that reality, because they move 16 and they can Phantasm. Like they're gonna get a shot up.
You're not gonna hide from them. Just deploy in the most advantageous way possible.
Exactly.
Pretend it's a flyer.
Yeah, that's how you beat speed. If someone is too fast and cutting too many angles on you, don't bother making them cut angle. Be in a better position. Right. So that's sort of the idea there. Zach the Bird asks, how many mortals are you putting out per turn with the 2 Maliceptors in the zones? It's 12 plus 9 is 21, 24. It's 24 mortal wounds before the results of the spells, which are probably another 8 or 10. So probably like 34-ish. It depends on what's available. Obviously, if I can sneak in like a Neuroparasite onto a squad of Swooping Hawks or 10 Guardians or Dire Avengers or what have you, it's a little bit easier to do more mortals, but it's a lot. Also, Maliceptors, people forget this. They have Horned Chitin, so they can do the Horny strat and do an extra D3 or flat 3 or D3 plus 3 on the charge.
Let's go Horny strat.
The other thing to keep in mind as a Tyranid player playing double Maliceptor, Think City, I love that. That's a great name for the list. Is that the downside to Maliceptors, they get movable. They are capped at 12 inches for the vast majority of their damage, and if your opponent has a crap unit, they can park right in front of them. You might be in trouble. It honestly makes me consider taking Army-wide Heroics as a preventative measure to deal with that, where it's like, okay, now if you want to come tango with a Maliceptor, because they often want to lock them in combat, I'm going to do a bunch of extra stuff, but maybe not. So that's something to think about here. When you're placing your terrain, it would be nice to not get shot at. It would be a lot nicer to not get move blocked.
Yeah.
So
I think you want to put all the terrain around the edge of your DZ. I mean, like, one
Mhm.
or two important things to keep objectives
Yeah.
safe, but just in other words, just get it out of the way.
Yeah, I want this maximally wide open channel from my DZ to his, where if he's going to move block both Maliceptors, he's committing a ton of units.
Yeah.
I have a short question about the spore mines.
Yeah, for sure.
They don't count as models for like deep strike? Like I could come within.
Yep, you just got to,
Okay.
you can't drop on top of them.
And it's when I move within 3 inches of them that
When
they
you
just
end a
explode?
move that whose path went within 3 of them. So if you go over them
Okay.
and end outside of 3, they can still explode,
So they-
and it's a can, not a must.
and it's all in the same phase, in the movement phase, right?
Yes.
There's a funny little play where Vaharoth could just fly over all the spore mines and pop all of them on that bottom
It's a
objective.
can, not a must.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
So I can say, okay,
Interesting.
Baharoth, I'll blow up 3 of the spore mines. I mean, there's probably not that many of them, but yeah, I'll go
Yeah.
ahead and do your three wounds to you. That's fine. Now you're
Well,
dead.
Think of some weird stuff.
But yeah, it's both Hank and Colin wanted to do that, and both of them were like, "What do you mean I can't do that?" And I was like,
Because
"Well,
the old ones are a must, right?
yeah,
It's
absolutely."
happening. Okay.
Though it was also charge phase, not a movement ending, not passing. So they're a fun time. They're one of the, like, if you are a Tyranid player looking to flex some player skill, flex some like forward thinking, take Biovores. They're so much fun. I'm increasingly happy with the 2-man squad. I was very much like, you need the full 3 for a while, and you just don't. 2d3 mines is plenty, and they're easier to hide that way. And you save 50 points. They're not, or 45 points. They're not cheap. So yeah, so that's my thought here. Rush them down, beat them hard. I'd love to go first, obviously, much like Lukas was saying, but honestly, I score points so well, I don't really care. I'm kind of happy to not give them that bonus primary at the end of the day and go second. It's not going to hurt too bad. Yeah. So that's the idea there. Cool. I think that's. Oh, we got more.
This was
Sweet.
just
We
more
got
if we
one
had
more.
some extra time. So
Do we talk about one more matchup?
Yeah, let's
Up
do
to
one
you.
more.
We've no Armor of Contempt, so I guess we
Yeah,
had
where's
Granites.
Armor of Contempt?
yeah.
Oh yeah, we had granites. Okay, yeah. So now up next, our final mission that we're going to talk about here, the final scenario, we're going to have our very own Mr. the Juice, Nicholas Olsen Johnson, playing Thousand Suns. And what does your T Suns army look like, Nick?
Yes, this is the T-Suns list I've been testing. It is Cult of Time. It's got Ahriman on the disc with all the like buff spells, Glamour, Weaver, Presage. It's got the Exalted Sork on disc with all the damage spells, so Gaze, Firestorm, Doombolt. He's got an extra cast and an extra spell. I give him 30 Gertie. That's the funny little disc that, lets you advance and charge and fall back and cast and consolidate 6 in any direction. You can do some goofy stuff with it. You got the Infernal Master, that's the prayer guy, so he can either hand out +1 strength with range weapons or ignore cover. He's got Umbrellific Crystal, it's the once per game teleport a unit in the command phase that's nearby him. And Seeker After Shadows, Warlord trait for just an extra Cabal point, and cast actions on 3d6, pick the 2 highest. You got 4 squads of 5 Rubrics with Soul Reaper Cannon, 2 squads of 10 Scarab Terminators with Soul Reapers and Missile Racks. One of the Scarab Cults has the heal a guy in the command phase to full. And then I got 2 squads of 5 Spawn. So pretty similar to some T-Suns lists that were floating around back in the fall and the winter, but I've decided to cut down to min rubric squads instead of the big bricks to 10.
Cool beans. I know, Lukas, you're pretty familiar with Thousand Suns. Anything here that you'd want to point out?
Yeah, he's the resident expert, actually.
Yeah,
I
he
thought
is.
I
He's
was
actually
gonna sneeze for a
undefeated in tournament games with
Mhm.
Thousand Suns.
100% win rate. Easy clap.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot here that's interesting. I think Cult of Time is the thing that most people who are interested in Thousand Suns would be a little iffy on. I feel like Duplicity versus Time is tough right now. I actually like Time a lot better. I feel like the extra mileage you get out of a couple more models is really big. And I feel like resurrecting as a movement trick is worse than teleporting, but not by a significant margin.
Yeah.
Resurrecting can give you some easy charges, and that is really big.
Yeah. For those that
Um,
aren't aware, Time Spell is the resurrect a dead model, and
Yeah,
Duplicity
Warp
So
Charge.
we're
the jump.
Warp Charge 6 picks up a model in a squad.
Yep.
So yeah, and T-Sun's at +1 to cast, so it's very reliable.
Yep.
The other thing is Infernal Master. I don't think a lot of T-Suns players like the Infernal Master. Against Space Marines, that's a very silly take, in my humble opinion. Because going to Strength 5 versus Strength 4 is such a big break point. How could you not want that? It's insane to me.
especially because they have vets, don't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
Why would you not want to win on twos?
Yes, it's absolutely crazy. But I don't know. The guy's
Because they're-
expensive at the end of the day, but it's worth it.
Yeah, ignore cover is also such a big deal, right?
Yeah.
If
So-
whatever army you're playing right now, if you have access to ignores cover, that's like easy, that's not crazy out of your way, and you're not taking it, please reconsider your life choices as you
Yeah, I think he's
you
really
should
good.
probably be doing that.
He's the only source of +1 strength and shooting and ignore cover in the book, so why don't you
What
take
are you gonna do?
you know?
All right, cool. So, and we've got. Oh, do you have something else to add, Nick?
That was it.
Okay, and we've got this glorious Thousand Sons Cult of Time army matched up against our boys, the Blood Angels. Whoever was in here talking about how much you love Blood Angels earlier, it's your time to shine. We're playing secure, missing artifacts. That is to say, new school priority targets, 5 objectives, weird, wonky diagonal deployments. What's the Blood Angels list look like today, Lucas? We're doing the full gas.
I think we're going full gas. I think we're going
Full
like
gas.
20 to 30 Sangers,
30
15,
Sangers. There's no other acceptable
15
option.
Death Company, 10 to 15 Death Company.
Hell yeah.
And then just maybe some Vanguard vets.
Yeah,
And some schmucks to hold the objectives.
We take the 5-up ignore. We take the 5-up of Feel No Pain banner. That's into mortals, right? 5-up Feel No Pain against mortals.
Yeah.
Can you have that and the +2 move, or are those fighting for the same slot?
No, you can have both of those. The 5-up shrug is a warlord trait.
Gotcha. So 5-up shrug warlord trait, +2 move banner. Probably got a squad of infiltrators because you really want those, and maybe 5 incursors, 5 intercessors.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Do you have rights of war? Another big question.
5,000%.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think Harpster isn't taking it, and I think that is a classic Harpster blunder if he's doing that, where he gets way too cocky on his ability to not need something that seems very important.
Yep.
Yeah, so they're
I kinda agree
gassing,
with
they're
that.
coming for you. What are you gonna do about it, Nick?
Yeah, so the cool thing I thought about this is an army I'm not that experienced with. So I'm gonna like talk about like what I think is good, like, secondaries in general and how I'd approach it. But like you guys can also hop in here. This is kind of like a cool moment where it'll be like we can all kind of try to figure out how to play an army together. Or like you guys can weigh in and be like, oh Nick, I think you should do this. So I know T-Suns are super, super cool, in my opinion. They feel very similar to Necrons in that you can have just 3 secondaries baked into your lists. I know a lot of people like to take like Stranglehold, uh, Mutate, and Banners, at least back in the day. Banners is much worse nowadays. But like you can do stuff like what is it? While We Stand can kind of be baked into your list as well. But it's also super flexible depending on who you're up against. So looking at this board, looking at the matchup, obviously I haven't played this matchup since I've only played Thousand Suns twice. But I'm immediately thinking ones that look pretty good are something like Mutate, Stranglehold, and perhaps No Prisoners. I don't know quite how much the Blood Angels gives up, but I did hear just a lot of power armor. And if I'm winning this game, they're going to come right at me, and I'm going to have to gun and chop and smite my way out.
It's
And
like
while
a
I'm doing
comfortable
that,
10.
yeah, while I'm doing that, I probably have to fight over the board. So I'm probably like Stranglehold seems like a shoe-in. And while I'm on those objectives, might as well, roll 2d6 and get 3 more points with Mutate. So Mutate's
I
like,
think
yeah,
I think
sorry,
a
go ahead.
sleeper, really good one here is Assassinate.
Assassinate.
Because they want to hit you as hard and fast as possible, Angel Sacrifice plays are a great way to
Yep.
dodge your interrupt.
Mhm.
And all their characters want to be used aggressively, and then you get to clap them when you interrupt. So I think Assassinate is. I think I would probably.
They don't have a
Is
Libby,
Mutate?
right?
No, they have 4 characters.
Okay. Because like, if they bring a Libby, Wrath of Magnus for sure.
Oh yeah, that makes this a lot easier. Yeah,
Yeah.
they almost certainly don't have a library.
Yeah, I think they want a poor access, and it's just worth taking.
Do you what do you guys think is better here? Mutate or No Prisoners? No Prisoners for the reliable. Well, how many points is it? So you got like 30 Sangers, 10 Death Company.
Or
That's
Mental. Do you think
4.
Mental's better than Mutate?
Oh,
Ooh,
probably.
I
right.
like Interrogate a
I like
lot.
Mental
Yeah,
much
because
Yeah, because now it's just now
like,
I don't have to go throw guys out on objectives and casts. I can just hey, here's your character.
Interrogate
That's
is like
6 inches away
minimum 12. Oh, what about Warp Ritual?
I think
No, don't go near the center.
Interrogate's way
No?
easier.
Your
Okay.
character,
Sure.
especially if it was with a normal squad. That's fine.
Oh, I forgot that Warp Ritual is it's character locked as well. Okay, so yeah.
Because Interrogate's anything in my army, right? It's not character.
No, it is character.
Okay.
The Infernal Master. He's got
Yeah,
1
easy.
cast anyway.
He has the 3d6 do casts on actions. The 3d6
Perfect.
+1. Pick the 2 highest.
Amazing. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, so he does that. So you definitely take Interrogate. Do you just double down on the characters and take Interrogate and Assassinate?
Yeah, stranglehold, mental interrogation, and then I think no prisoners and assassinate. It's basically the same. It's a pretty reliable, like 9 or 10.
I like assassinate because it makes because if your opponent tries to be cheeky and not go for the Angel of Sacrifice plays, then they're in big trouble. When Angel of Sacrifice is like the best tool that Blood Angels have in this matchup, in my
And
opinion.
is the banner, the Fight Feel No Pain banner, is it anything in their armory? Is it core and character?
Everything in his army's core and character. So
Okay,
Yeah.
but yeah, it is core and character though.
Yep.
Okay, because I was like, if it doesn't work on the characters, it's very
Oh,
easy.
sure. Yeah.
Even then, dude, I played into Grey Knights the other night, and their Fight Feel No Pain's cool. It's cute, but like, what really hurt me more was them having a million denies with +1 to deny.
Mhm.
Like, my mortal's still getting through. It's just like, okay, you'll block a third of them. Like, sometimes
For
I hot
sure.
roll and you don't roll well.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
there goes
And
Trey guy.
then, all right. So the Blood Angels player, they're playing full gas. So
Yep.
they're taking the Blood Angels be in your opponent's deployment zone 1. They're taking Line Breaker, and
I
they're
still think
taking.
stranglehold is better than relentless assault.
Really, it's so good.
Dude,
It's so good.
imagine not controlling 3 objectives on this mission at the end of your turn, though.
I think they take
Yeah,
Stranglehold.
I guess you like all you have is rights. Like if Nick parks a break of Terminators, like that's a hard thing to move.
I think they go abhor, no prisoners, and stranglehold, and
Yep.
just run right at you like
Yep.
a complete chimpanzee.
I don't want to leave stuff on. I don't want to leave stuff on my backfield objective though. I want to leave as like a.
That's what
fucking
5 intercessors are for.
5 intercessors. Okay.
Or if you're worried about
like,
me coming and stealing it, put 5 infiltrators back there, you know?
Yeah, so the infiltrators can stick back there, but then like I don't want to be fighting on 2 fronts. I want to be fighting in one front, which is pinning Nick into his deployment zone just on top of that home field objective.
I think you're doing that.
Well, here's the thing, guys.
Mhm.
I chose this mission for a reason. These objectives are not static, they are moving.
Oh, we're playing Prios, baby.
What do
Okay.
we think each player wants to do with the objective movement?
Interesting. I think the question in my mind is, Nick, do you think you want to be balled up or do you think you want to spread out?
I think I want to be balled up. I don't know. Maybe that's really wrong. But, like, from my experience playing T-Suns into White Scars, it felt
Mhm.
like I want to use the rubrics to kind of stand in the way and be like, hey, these guys going to be on objective, or like, this guy's going to be in your way. And, like,
Mhm.
what is it? The aggressive Marine player, I guess in this case, Blood Angels, has to charge the rubrics and, wipe them out. And then now my scarabs and my characters are behind them and they get to light them up with smites and shooting and punching. If my scarabs are like the front line, like that's really bad. If they get to hit first before they hit, that like you lose the game.
Yes.
So I think
Scarabs
my
are
army is basically like this fortress of here's rubrics, here's spawn, here's scarabs, here's characters.
I like that setup, but I like it in 2 castles instead of 1.
Okay.
I feel like the Blood Angels coming in and hemming you in and just smashing the one castle in over and over again is really good, but if you have, like, on your Ham and Anvil Void flank, on one corner, you can put 1 castle, which is just half your rubrics, half your scarabs, half your spawn, 1 character, and then you have the same thing, but with the other character down by your home field objective. I feel like that's where you wanna be. Because Blood Angels get a lot of mileage out of their buffs, and
Yeah.
if you can split up their buffs, especially not being near the chaplain, they're not gonna hit you as hard by a wide margin.
Yeah, I think that you need to be the one to spread out here because if you make a death ball and he makes a death ball, his death ball will slam into yours and it will
Yeah.
Yeah.
like
Okay.
it'll chew through you eventually and it'll do it while holding more objectives because he's way faster than you are.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I agree with that. But in general, like, where do we want the objectives to move? Like, let's say Nick gets the first objective movement. Does he make his objective safer, or does he make his opponent's objective
I think he
less?
100% has to make his own safer. I
I
don't think
agree
that
with that.
the Blood Angel one can be wherever it wants to be. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, there's gonna be 5 incursors on it in cover.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to get the other 2 on his side. I'm probably
Yeah.
trying
Yeah.
to get 2 on my side and like fight over the middle.
Yeah, so you're definitely you're pulling the top one down into your zone.
Yeah.
And then he is going to pull your home field objective toward the center of the table because he wants to park a ball of death there. If he's real smart, he'll pull it like straight horizontal so it
Yeah.
stays further away from the top one as well. Um,
And then I
I
got
think
2
that's what he
options
wants.
here. I could either
Yeah.
pull his one kind of like more
Well, no, you
down.
don't get any options. He gets options. It's ABBA.
Yeah. Oh, so I have to do the one in his DC.
Well, no, he gets to pick.
Yeah.
The question is, does he pull his backfield forward or his midfield backwards? Or maybe his midfield forwards. I think if I'm the Blood Angel player, I'm pulling my midfield forwards and making a triangle at the bottom of the table.
Yes, I think that the Blood Angel player takes the 2 at the bottom of the table and sends them straight toward the middle.
Yep, and says that's where I'm going to park my castle. Good luck. And now, this feels kind of rough.
This is scary.
Blood Angels are a thing.
Not great. This is a tough matchup for T-Suns. This is what we're talking about with like.
And then, so what are you doing with his top objective then? Are you maybe yanking that like up and over so that you could like eventually slowly work out there and make it harder for him to be able to just throw 5 power armor bodies on?
That is one option.
Safe?
I can move it closer towards me, so it's like if I go around the castle, I can get to it.
Or do you push it all the way into the corner and say that unit is not participating in the game? If you want to put a wall in front of it, it's not the wall that the rest of your stuff is going to hide behind, and that's going to make your terrain more challenging.
The thing I think about that though is like 5 infiltrators aren't going to do much during the game. You could probably just slap 5 infiltrators back there, and now I'm never getting back there.
I think it's a relatively inconsequential objective. Yeah. I think just put it in the corner so that the unit is as far back as possible.
It's fair.
I also really like it as a terrain play, because if it's very hard to put a wall behind the objective and another wall 6 inches in front of that one that he can hide all his stuff behind.
Fair.
And if he has to mess with that, it's going to make it much harder for him to be deployed on the line, ready to jump off.
How do you guys feel like this game goes if he gets to drop a big objective or a big piece of terrain in the middle and just parks on his 3 on his half and
it's heavy cover, baby?
Like that's pretty scary, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's a part of the question is are we playing with something small enough that he can hide behind and that he can be on the objective obscured? If that's the case, Nick's in big trouble.
What piece? Oh, you mean like okay.
Like a skinny wall kind of thing where he can tow something in that'll be obsec from rights that can then that's
because Nick wants to come to the middle to get his stranglehold anyway. Mm-hmm. So he's gonna have to start trickle feeding the Blood Angels player stuff at early on in the game. Mm-hmm. And that's not exactly where you want to be.
No, it's not. And I think if you're a smart Blood Angel player who sees where the objectives are and you have a thin L like that and you position it like perpendicular to the lines of the deployment zones so that it can't be seen from that top objective where Nick is going to have a safer castle, like it's going to be a really hard thing to move. So terrain is a big decider in this game, one way or the other.
Yeah. This is probably our most interesting scenario. I'm having a ton of fun with this.
Yeah, and this does not seem solvable. This seems like you're going to need, like, the best we can do is get you a decent plan, and then you're going to have to play real tight in game.
You're going to have to wing it in the game.
Yeah,
big time.
Blood Angels are very much like we'll see what happens, because he can go wherever he wants and do whatever he wants. It's a little bit telegraphed to turn in advance, but like that's a problem. Great question for the chat here. What's your plan for Death Company Thunderhammers in your DZ turn 1, smacking y'all upside the head? Just rubrics out front?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, kill a squad of 5 rubrics.
Do you rubric a squad of 5 to the center objective if he doesn't put any infiltrators or incursors there?
That's an interesting question.
Just to wall back the Death Company, because they have to end their Forlorn Fury outside of 9.
Maybe? I don't know. I worry that just gives his whole army like a unit to charge off of. Like if he puts his army front of DZ, don't like the Sanguinary Guard rocket forward like 12 or 14 or something?
Yeah, maybe you can put them in a spot where they're out in the open, because he doesn't have a ton of, and you don't care about all those bolt guns, so you just put them out in the open, and then if he wants to come kill them, he's doing it in melee, and then he's not going to be in cover.
Yeah, it could be something like a Risen Rubric, like not in the center, like far enough away that his Sangard aren't going to charge, but far enough out that they'll like mess up the pregame Death Company move. So then the Death Company basically go, cool, if you want to like charge this Risen Rubric squad out in the open, go ahead.
I don't know that such a position exists, because the Death Company move 12 and then charge.
No, I'm saying like mess up their end outside of 9 so they can't get into my DZ, basically.
For sure, but I'm saying like if they're going to move 9 and then and they're going to move 12, like being 9 away from you, if you're going to prevent a 12 and then a charge, like that's got to be pretty far forward. I don't know about the math on that, but if you can figure it out, go for it.
I think no, honestly, because that's like a 2 CP stratagem, and T-Suns need their CP. Like I'm vetsing as much as possible this matchup, and that's 2 CP every time I vets. So I think spending a vets to like do some kind of, I don't like it. I think honestly it's just like, sure, dude, go ahead. Like I know you can do this. Kill 5 rubrics turn 1.
I think the T-Sun player is doing spending all of his CP on doing damage to kill the Blood Angels as fast as possible.
Yeah. clean up the points in the end once they're tabled. Sorry, what did we say the Blood Angel secondaries are here? We said they're going Stranglehold, Abhor, and
No
No
prisoners.
no
I
prisoners.
think
Why isn't Oath in there?
Oath is fine.
Because no prisoners is a
Yeah, no
14.
prisoners is just 15 for killing the army. And same thing with
Yeah,
Abhor.
I suppose.
Because of the spawn. The spawn. If you play against a T-Senseless without spawn, Oath's probably better. But the spawn
I guess you're never going to be falling back.
40.
You'll kill a couple characters,
You'll-
and you're going to be
You'll
in the
hold
center, every
for
turn.
free. Yeah.
Okay, Oath is probably better.
Oath is
hilariously.
15 solid. If he takes no prisoners and you get crafty and don't let him kill as much as he wants to, like that's like 10 or 12 points.
Yeah.
Oath also like puts the pressure on the T-Suns player to make the first move, right?
I think Stranglehold's already doing that though, right?
But even more so with
why
Oath
not
of
why
Moment.
not both, right? If you're already going to have to throw stuff in the middle, why not
Yeah.
get 6 points a turn for it instead of 3?
Yeah.
I think
You're totally
you
right,
could
though.
do both and be completely fine.
Yeah.
So
So you go Oath, Strangle, and then Abhor, I guess.
Abhor doesn't feel great, but like
It doesn't feel great. And Oath cancels out no prisoners, right?
yes,
yeah, unfortunately.
Cool.
that's the argument there. I mean, the thing too is you're playing against time. They're going to be bringing guys back every turn, so no prisoners is even easier, you know. So
Yeah.
I think both
I
are
just-
Either one of those is fine,
Yeah.
and Abhor or Assassinate or something will be okay, I guess.
Okay.
I think Abhor's better than Assassin.
So so he's basically got 30 points off the hop out of Stranglehold and Oath in my mind.
Yeah.
And we'll
Yep.
see what happens with Abhor. And you took, by contrast, what did you grab again?
It's mental, strangle, and
Mental,
assassinate.
Strangle, Assassinate. So
Yeah.
mental is a 15. Strangle, let's just say that Strangle for both of you is a 15. It's not, but like let's just pretend it is.
Yeah.
Because you're vaguely the same at it.
It's
And then the question is, what is better between your Assassinate, which caps at like 13 points probably, versus his Abhor? Those seem like shockingly well-matched secondaries, like edge to the Blood Angels, but like only slightly.
the downside is Strangle's like a 9 for me and a 12 if like things go really well.
Yeah, it's a 9 for you, and you have to play in a suboptimal way.
Yeah.
Which is
But like I don't know what's better. Gage
no,
has got
there's,
awful
there's
people.
nothing better, but it's just gonna be it's gonna be.
I think
tough
that might be an
game.
argument for Risen Rubrique, though, that's 3 points off the hop if you go first.
Yeah, you could warp or something out.
Yeah,
there.
you can get there.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure. So yeah, that's
We got
okay, so this-
warp time. We got double move.
we're sitting a little bit behind on the secondary game, so we're gonna have to play pretty hard in the primary game. What I'm gonna ask you the same question I asked Lukas earlier. What risks are you able to slip into in order to hammer back a little more than you might otherwise want to?
What do you mean?
Like if you guys just basically stand still and play your respective games, he's going to win.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do that's going to break the symmetry to give you a chance to win this game?
I've got an idea, Nick. If you want to take a minute to think.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, like I said, I only played this army 2 times, so I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Lukas, by contrast, our esteemed undefeated tournament player over here. What do you got?
Stop. I think we can debate if this is the right play, but I think it has some merits. Going for an early DMC into the Blood Angel backfield and forcing them to go in different directions. If they just want to go full steam into your 2 objectives, but you put 10 Scarab Occult Terminators in their backfield on turn 2, and you say this might not be a problem this turn, but next turn they're going to chill on your home field objective for the rest of the game. That I feel like is something the Blood Angel player is.
I think
you know,
that's a hot idea. I like that a lot.
Yes. Yeah. I think it's very powerful. If he has infiltrators, it's a lot harder to make that happen. But I'm not seeing a lot of people fork over for infiltrators these days.
I think
And
they should, but
I think
Yeah.
they should as well.
But
But
not all
I
of
can
them
definitely
are.
see why they don't. I mean, they're expensive as hell.
it would also be very easy as a Blood Angel player who's not thinking about this to just automatically put your infiltrators dead center.
Yep.
Yeah.
And be like, cool, no Risen Rubrique, no getting close to me. I have
No,
tons of room for my Death Company to do their thing. What are you gonna do about it? And you're like, boom, surprise, mother clucker.
They lock
That's what I'm
down the
gonna do about it.
backfield 100%. They should.
Yeah.
I think
So
too,
there-
like, what is it? We found that spawn, with like the pick mutation strat for AP4, are like surprisingly good at chopping through Armor Contempt. And then
Those
like,
Sangers in heavy cover with their 4-up saves.
I mean, we're
not
assuming
even
heavy
talking
cover.
about heavy cover, dude.
Not
They're
really.
-1 to hit, 2-up armor. That I feel like is the worst part.
Yeah.
'cause you're
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
be
not
putting them on-
talking about running in and like obliterating Sanguinary Guard with them.
Yeah,
So-
you can run in and muck them up, and the Blood
Yeah.
Angels have no fallback and charge. So if you can just do enough damage to a squad and lock them in combat so you can get another round of smites into them, that's what you really want out of the spawn.
Exactly. And the thing is, a spawn with -1 to hit 4 up invul are like surprisingly annoying to get rid of. So I don't think it's like a permanent roadblock, but I'm saying like you can kind of throw that in the middle as like your muck up unit. Like I'm not going to throw in like 10 scarabs like into their whole army. That's like, uh-oh, GG. But like yeah, you can definitely use the spawn to like kind of like start the I think that's what you should use to start the fights.
If no prisoners is going to be super sus, if we've kind of like mentally walked through this pregame, if no prisoners is going to, sorry, if Stranglehold is going to be very not good for us, why don't we take no prisoners and just get a 10 on it? Isn't that what we're expecting out of
And take no
Stranglehold?
prisoners, assassinate, and mental interrogation? What is this? This is cracked.
Okay, yeah, at that point, you're the aggressor, and that's pretty bad. Yeah, never mind. That's probably not great.
What about, is there something you can go, if you're going to jump into his zone, would you seriously consider engage?
No. I don't like that.
Like, he wants to play the middle, you get to play the periphery?
I'm bad at playing engage with this kind of army, I think.
Okay.
So I don't think I'll be able to reliably get it.
It is like another whole thing to orchestrate, and T-Sons are wicked complicated.
Yeah, it's also like,
I see that.
We just talked about how we wanted this army to be active in 2 castles, or maybe like 2 castles and then like eventually fling one squad over to their DC. Engage is like, you have to kind of splinter those castles up, and it's like, if you leave like a little crack for the Blood Angels player, which is really easy to do if you're trying to get engaged, they'll just slip right in there and win the game. So
yeah. Okay.
I don't like it at all. Your unit's also super slow, so like
Zach asks if you can take to the last. That would be instead of no prisoners, which doesn't feel terrible, but that's what, like your 20 Terminators and something else?
It's the 20 Terminators and Ahriman. It's okay.
It's good.
I feel like the Terminators are all gonna die.
Yeah, I feel like you need to
I feel like you're trying to win the game while getting tabled in this matchup.
Yeah.
This is gonna be a very bloody game. You're not gonna have very much stuff left at the end.
Yeah. Good thought though. If we're gonna try to play a slightly more passive game and let the Blood Angels really come to us, I see that.
Yep.
I don't. Yeah.
Like if this was something like Salamanders, you could definitely take to the last.
Oh yeah, if you run up against a shooty type of chapter with T-Sons, you just take all defensive secondaries and park in a ruin and be like, okay, do something about
I
it.
got heavy cover, baby. What are you gonna do about it?
Stop mentioning heavy cover. You're tilting me.
This is if y'all haven't listened to the last episode of Fight Club, this is exactly what happened. Is Innes kept bringing up heavy cover and Violence kept getting mad at him. So it's good fun.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a tough matchup, but I'm glad we went through like a bunch of different scenarios. So.
Yeah, fun stuff. Cool. So I'm gonna go play against Craft Worlds. I don't think they have any Fire Prisms. You guys should play into Grey Knights and Borkan and see how that shakes out. We might come back and talk about that if we make it happen. Regardless, without further ado, I think that's about all we got time for. I realize we were trying to do 90 minutes and we're at an hour 48 right now.
That's not too bad.
Yeah, not terrible. Cool. So without further ado, thank you so much for listening in. There should be a pre-roll that told you to do all the things, but in case you forgot, make sure to find us on YouTube if you want to see all of our visuals. If you're over there right now, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, all the stuff. While you're there, if you want all of the content, meaning more bat reps, more part 2s, more behind the scenes content, all that juicy stuff, consider joining the channel, becoming a member. It's only $10 a month. You get a whole lot of crazy good content, and there's more being added almost every single day. If you like what you heard from us, just if you like talking to us and would like to join one of the best communities in the 40K community, support us on Patreon. It's also $10 a month. These are totally separate things meant for kind of different sorts of people. Jump on in and come chat with us. Continue the conversation. Zach asks, he's only got money for one. What is better, joining the Patreon or the YouTube channel? I would say it kind of depends on what you like to get out of it. If you're a very social person who wants to talk about lists and get opinions from some of the best players and share some of your stuff and get feedback, I think the Patreon is probably the one for you. But if you would rather have just more content to sit and paint and watch and get more stuff sort of passively, that's where the YouTube membership may end up being a little more interesting. If you love hearing about the second halves of Chasing the Narrative are a ton of fun. Obviously, that's where the best battle report content comes from, which you can rewatch infinite times. That's kind of the difference, right? Is that the Patreon, the Discord stuff, you're in there when it happens or you're not. The YouTube stuff is there forever. It's always good content to watch. You get to see some of us play some other players. And I know that there's stuff coming out of Violence is going to have a stream set up soon. I think Innis might have a stream set up soonish as well. Tons more stuff coming to the members only area. What do you guys think? Discord versus YouTube.
That's tough. I couldn't imagine living with either one of these. My first instinct is saying Patreon for sure, because I
Mhm.
spent so much time in that Discord.
Yeah.
But the YouTube channel has some dope content. So
I will say that is the other thing, is consider how much time you have to spend, not just money, because
yes,
the Discord will envelop you if you're using it correctly, and that's great if you have that kind of time. But if you don't have that kind of time, it can be really hard to keep track of, and it just disappears, and you may end up not liking it. So that if you want to work on your own schedule instead of being 24/7 40K, the YouTube is probably the place to go.
yeah. If you're time limited, go YouTube.
Yeah, cool. So there's an unexpected conversation about where to spend your money. We absolutely love that you're watching us at all. If you're listening to us on a podcast app that has a review platform, we would love to hear about it. If you enjoyed this show, this is BIFPOD The Next Generation. If you thought the show was a terrible waste of your time, well, thank you for listening to us for almost 2 hours. But this has been 40K Fight Club. Tell them about how much you hated it. And with that all being said and done, I've been Tyler.
I've been Nick.
And I'm still Lucas.
And we look forward to seeing you next week for some more great BIFPOD The Next Generation content. Thanks for listening, y'all. We'll catch you next time.
See you later.
Later, nerds.